The silence on the 30th floor. The rain came down in thin, steady lines outside the grand windows of the Mirage Regency Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. It was a quiet evening, gray skies, soft thunder, and the hush of a city winding down. On the 30th floor, a long hallway stretched out beneath warm golden lights. The carpet was plush, the walls spotless, and behind room 3007, something strange was unfolding. A call had come into the front desk at 6:40 p.m. from a housekeeper. Her voice had trembled. "I think something's wrong in 3007. The door was unlocked, the lights were off, and as she didn't finish, security arrived first. They knocked, no answer. They tried calling the room phone. Silence. Then came the manager, nervous, unsure. Finally, after a few more minutes, hotel staff decided to alert the police. Not because of noise, not because of complaints, because of the silence. Room 3007 was registered under a name that most of the staff had whispered about for days. Mer. K. Charles. It was a fake name. They knew that. Hollywood types did that all the time. But the face behind the name wasn't a secret. It was Keanu Reeves. He had checked in 3 days earlier. No entourage, no luggage other than one duffel bag, no special requests. He barely left the room, except once to get tea. The bellhop who brought it said he tipped $500 without blinking. But otherwise, no noise, no guests, no movement, just quiet. And now, room 3007 had gone completely still. When the two police officers arrived, they were calm but alert. Officer Diaz and Officer Molina. Both had worked downtown for years. They'd seen celebrity overdoses, domestic fights in penthouse suites, even a stolen tiger once. But something about this call felt different, not dangerous, just heavy. The hotel manager used his master key. The officers opened the door slowly. At first glance, the room was dark, all curtains drawn. A faint smell of sandalwood hung in the air. The bed was untouched, the television off, no broken glass, no signs of forced entry. And then they saw it. Keanu Reeves was sitting on the floor. Legs crossed, eyes closed, back against the wall. He didn't move. Officer Molina stepped forward cautiously. "Sir." No response. Double quotes. "Sir, are you all right?" Keanu opened his eyes. Slowly, like waking from something deep. "Yes," he said softly. "I'm okay." But he didn't look okay. His eyes were red. Not from drugs, not from alcohol, from crying. Officer Diaz crouched beside him. "We got a call." Staff were concerned. Keanu nodded. "I left the door unlocked. That was careless." "You haven't left your room in over 24 hours. Keanu looked down, then said quietly, "I was remembering." The officers exchanged a glance. "Do you need help, sir?" Keanu took a deep breath. "No, but maybe someone else does." They looked around. "Is there anyone else here?" He shook his head. "Not anymore." They waited. Then Keanu said something that changed everything. "Can I show you something?" He stood slowly, walked across the room, and opened the closet door. Inside were 2 large duffel bags. He pulled one out and unzipped it. Inside were letters, hundreds of them. Handwritten, folded, many stained with age or tear marks. The second bag was filled with notebooks. Keanu looked at the officers. "They send me letters. Kids, veterans, people I've never met. They tell me their pain, their fear, their loneliness." I read one, and then another, and suddenly I'd read 50. I forgot to sleep. Officer Molina stared at the pile. "You read them all?" "I try." "Why?" Keanu sat on the bed, his voice low. "Because they believe I'll care, and if someone believes that, then I should." The room was silent again. Officer Diaz, unsure what to do, sat in a nearby chair. "You okay, sir?" Keanu nodded. "Physically, yes, but I think maybe I wasn't okay emotionally. So I stayed here to feel it, to not escape it." And then came the twist. He reached under the bed and pulled out a small metal box. He opened it slowly and handed one of the items to Officer Diaz. It was a letter, dated 2 weeks ago, from a boy named Tyler in Ohio. "Dear Mr. Reeves, my brother died in February. I don't have friends anymore. Sometimes I think about dying too. But when I watch your movies, I feel calm, like there's a good man out there somewhere. I don't think anyone reads these, but if you do, thanks. Keanu swallowed hard. I called the number on the envelope. No answer, but something didn't sit right. So I hired a private investigator. He handed over a folder. Inside were photos. A trailer in Ohio, overgrown grass, boarded windows, and one picture of a boy in a wheelchair sitting alone on a porch. He's still alive, Keanu said, but no one's come to check on him in months. Officer Molina raised an eyebrow. You want us to? Keanu stood. I want to go there, but I need someone to help arrange it quietly. No press, no cameras, just help. The officers looked at each other. This wasn't what they expected. They were called to a hotel room, expecting a crisis. Instead, they found a man quietly trying to save a life, not with money. With presence. With action. And suddenly, they realized the call wasn't about Keanu Reeves. It was about what he was about to do and who he was about to become. Because this wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning of one. And what waited in Ohio would shake them all. Asterisk. The boy on the porch. It was 3 days after the police found Keanu Reeves sitting silently in his hotel room, surrounded by letters from strangers. By then, word had quietly reached a few people within the department, not through headlines, but through whispers. Officer Diaz told his sergeant the basics. He wasn't in danger, but someone else might be. True to his word, Keanu wanted no publicity, no headlines, no social media. But the truth was, he was planning a trip that would take him far away from the red carpets and lights. He was heading to Ohio, and he wasn't going there to talk. He was going there to listen. With help from Officer Molina's contact in Cincinnati, Keanu arranged a private trip. No limo, no entourage, just a black rental car, a hoodie, and a printed copy of the boy's letter tucked into his jacket. The boy's name was Tyler. He lived in a forgotten part of town, one of those areas where time moves slower and help comes late. His older brother, Jason, had died in a fire the year before. Their mother, Marie, worked double shifts at a meatpacking plant. Their father had left 5 years earlier and never returned. Tyler had stopped speaking after the fire. Neighbors whispered that the boy never left the porch. Every morning, he wheeled himself outside, sat quietly, and stared at the road, like he was waiting for someone. And on that Thursday afternoon, someone came. Keanu pulled up slowly, parked across the street, and stepped out into the soft gray light. The street was empty. Cracked sidewalks, weeds pushing up through concrete. A few curtains moved in nearby windows, but no sound, just wind. He crossed the street and walked to the porch. Tyler was there. Just like in the photo. Small frame, tangled hair, pale skin. His hands rested on the armrests of his wheelchair. His eyes looked hollow, not angry, not sad, just far away. Keanu didn't speak right away. He stepped onto the porch slowly, then sat on the top step, not beside Tyler, not in front of him, just nearby. A minute passed, then to. Finally, Keanu pulled out the letter and placed it gently on the step between them. You wrote this, he said quietly, and I read it. Tyler didn't move. Keanu looked out at the street. I wasn't planning to read letters that night. I'd had a hard week. I was tired, but I opened yours, and something stopped me. Still no response. Your words were soft like a whisper, but they hit hard. Because I know what it's like to lose someone and feel alone afterward. I know what it's like when the silence is louder than anything else. Keanu leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. I didn't come here to fix anything. I came here because you asked, even if you didn't think anyone would hear. Tyler blinked. A small movement. Then slowly, his hand moved toward the letter. His fingers touched it, and he nodded. One time, inside the house, Marie saw everything from the window. Her eyes filled with tears. She hadn't seen Tyler nod in over 6 months. When she opened the door and stepped outside, she froze. Her face showed disbelief, then confusion. Then something close to heartbreak. Are you really him? Keanu stood slowly. I'm not here as anyone famous. I'm here because your son wrote something that changed my life. She looked at her boy, then back at Keanu. Do you want I come in? She asked softly. Keanu hesitated. Only if he wants me to. They both turned to Tyler. The boy gave one more nod. And just like that, the door opened. Inside, the house was quiet, sparse, a worn couch, photos on the wall. One of them showed two boys, Jason and Tyler, laughing with a dog in a field. That was before the fire, Marie said. Jason pulled him out, then went back in to save the dog. They both, she stopped. Keanu lowered his head. Marie whispered, Tyler hasn't spoken since. Keanu turned to the boy. I understand. Sometimes words take time. Sometimes they don't come at all. But the silence doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're still healing. They sat in the living room. Marie brought tea. Tyler stared at the floor. Then Keanu reached into his jacket and pulled out something small, a wooden coin. On one side was carved a tree. On the other, the word stay. I carry this with me when things feel heavy, he said, handing it to Tyler. A friend gave it to me a long time ago. He said trees don't rush. They grow when they're ready. Tyler took the coin and held it tightly. For the first time in months, he smiled. Small, brief. But real. And in that quiet living room, a spark returned to the air. Keanu stayed 3 days. Not in a hotel. Not in secret luxury. He stayed in a guest room that smelled like lavender and old books. He helped cook dinner. He played cards with Marie. He read comic books aloud in the living room, mostly to himself, but sometimes pausing when Tyler looked interested. On the second night, Tyler wheeled himself into the hallway and waited outside Keanu's door. Keanu opened it, surprised. What's up, champ? He asked gently. Tyler looked up and whispered one word. Why? Keanu knelt down. Because someone once came for me when I was sitting alone. They didn't fix everything, but they reminded me that I was seen, that I mattered. And now it's my turn. Tyler nodded again. On the third day, Keanu sat down at the kitchen table and made a quiet promise. I'm not going to leave forever. I'm going back to Los Angeles, but I'm starting something that starts with you. Marie tilted her head. What do you mean? Keanu opened his notebook. On the page were 4 words. Project Stay. Tyler's room. We start here, he said, and then we go big. Marie covered her mouth. Keanu. But before she could finish, someone knocked on the door. 3 cars were outside. Police cruisers. And behind them, reporters. Keanu stood. He had asked for no press, but someone had spoken. Someone had leaked. And now the world was watching. But what happened next would make every headline in the country. Because when the police stepped forward, they didn't come with questions. They came with an offer. An offer that would change everything. Asterisk. The promise in the rainth knock on the door wasn't loud. It was steady, calm. But something about it made Marie freeze mid-step. She looked toward the living room, where Keanu had just finished reading a chapter from a comic book aloud. A quiet, funny scene about a raccoon who ran a detective agency. Tyler had smiled at one part, his first smile that lasted more than a few seconds. But now the mood shifted. 3 police cruisers. 1 news van. Marie opened the door slowly, shoulders tight. Can I help you? She asked. Officer Gregson, the local sergeant, stood with his hands folded. He didn't wear a frown, but he didn't wear a smile either. We're here to speak with Mr. Reeves, he said. Keanu stood behind Marie and nodded. I'm here. The officers didn't move inside. Instead, Gregson lowered his voice. I know you asked for privacy, but someone at the hotel in Los Angeles tipped off a local reporter. It's already spreading. Keanu exhaled softly. I see. Gregson hesitated. Look, I don't know what your plan is, sir, but word's getting out fast, and this neighborhood isn't used to that kind of attention. Keanu stepped outside, hands in his hoodie pockets. I understand. Gregson tilted his head. Off the record. What are you doing here? Keanu looked at the man, trying to help a boy remember that the world hasn't forgotten him. The officer nodded once. His face softened. Okay then. You're going to need protection. I'm not important. You are now. From the corner, a local reporter emerged from the van. She was young, respectful, nervous. Her camera wasn't even on yet. Mr. Reeves, she called gently. "We heard you came to visit a boy, is it true?" Keanu looked back at the house, where Tyler sat just inside the door, watching quietly. "Yes," he said. "Can we ask why?" "Because he wrote me a letter." "And what did it say?" Keanu paused, then said gently, "That he needed someone to care." The reporter didn't push. Keanu added one more thing. "This isn't a story for the cameras. This is a story for the soul. Please don't twist it." The reporter nodded. "I won't." She never aired the footage, but she did write a piece titled "Keanu Came Quietly," and it spread everywhere. In the following days, something strange and beautiful happened. Letters began arriving at Marie's mailbox. Hundreds, then thousands. People from all over the country, kids, nurses, veterans, teachers, sending words of support to Tyler. Some included drawings. Others included photos of their pets, their families, even their own wheelchairs. One letter read, "You're not alone, Tyler. We're sitting with you from all across the world." Another said, "Dear Tyler, I stutter too, and I used to hide, but then I saw your picture, and now I'm not scared anymore." Tyler began to spend more time by the window, watching the mail carrier come and go. Every morning, he would open one envelope slowly and read it with his mother. Sometimes he cried. Sometimes he just sat in silence. And one day, he whispered, "They see me." Keanu had already returned to Los Angeles, but not for long. He left behind a blueprint, literally. On the back of Tyler's letter, Keanu had drawn something. Marie hadn't noticed it at first, but when she unfolded the page fully, she gasped. It was a plan. A sketch of a room, a healing space. A sensory-friendly room designed for children with trauma. A place filled with natural light, soft sounds, textures, and books. No hospitals, no beeping machines, no questions, just safety. And at the top of the drawing were the words, "Project Stay." Tyler's room. Marie called Keanu that night. "You're serious about this?" His voice was calm. "Yes. Do you know how many kids could use this?" "I do." "Do you know how much it'll cost?" "I do." "And you're still going to do it?" "Yes." And so the first room was built, not in a hospital, not in a clinic, but in a small community center down the road from Tyler's home. It was painted in soft green and blue tones. Keanu paid for everything quietly. He even visited again to install a small wooden bench himself, and above the doorway, carved into the frame, was a phrase, "Stay a while, you matter." Tyler visited the room 3 times a week. He brought Marie. Sometimes he brought other kids he knew from school, ones who had also gone quiet after life got hard. He didn't talk much, but he started drawing again. Small pictures at first, then whole scenes. He drew Keanu once. It showed him sitting on a step beside a boy in a wheelchair. No speech bubble, no superhero cape. Just a people sharing space. And then came the twist. A major studio executive reached out to Keanu's agent. They had heard about Project Stay and offered to help scale the idea into a branded awareness campaign. They wanted to put his name on shirts, do interviews, maybe even turn it into a docuseries. Keanu declined. He didn't want noise. He wanted more rooms. So he called Brenda Sato, the same disability advocate who helped him years ago on a previous project. "I don't want charity," he told her. "I want structure." Together, they formed a foundation, not named after him, but after the boy who started it all. The Tyler Initiative. The mission was simple: create healing spaces in every state. No logos, no cameras. Just kindness. But not everyone liked that. In a meeting with potential donors, one corporate executive leaned back and smirked. "This kind of work is emotional. It's not sustainable." Keanu stared at him quietly. "You know what's not sustainable?" he replied. "A world where a child sits on a porch every day waiting for someone to care." The room went quiet, and the next morning, the foundation had its first $1 million donation from a single mother in Texas who had lost her own child. "I don't have much," she wrote, "but this is what I saved. Please build another room in his name." And they did. But in the shadows, someone watched. Someone who saw this quiet movement gaining attention, that not for fame, not for money, but for the power it had to awaken hearts. And not everyone wanted that, because the next letter to arrive at Tyler's house wasn't made of kindness. It was a warning. and it was signed anonymously, "Stop now, before someone gets hurt." The threat with no return addressed envelope had no return address. No stamp. Just a piece of paper slipped into the mailbox sometime after midnight. Marie found it early in the morning, before sunrise, when the sky was still dark blue and the streetlights hummed softly. She stood on the porch in her robe, brushing off dust from the railing when she opened it. The message inside was printed on plain white paper. No greeting, no signature, just a few chilling words. "Stop now, before someone gets hurt." Her hands began to shake. She looked down the street. Everything looked normal. The neighbors' houses, the empty sidewalk, the wind brushing through the dry trees. But something felt wrong. She clutched the note and rushed back inside. Tyler was already awake, drawing in the living room, soft pastels on thick paper. He was sketching another scene from the Project Stay room. This one had sunlight, birds, and a tall tree with a bench underneath. It was peaceful. Marie folded the note and tucked it deep into her coat pocket. She didn't want him to see it. An hour later, she called Keanu. He answered on the second ring. "It came?" he asked, like he already knew. "Yes," she whispered. "How did you know?" "Because they always come." There was a pause on the line, the kind of pause that doesn't come from confusion, but recognition. Keanu had seen this before. Not exactly like this, but close, when quiet kindness threatens people who thrive in control. Fear becomes their weapon. "I'm flying back tonight," he said. "No," Marie replied. "We'll be okay. I needed you to know." Keanu hesitated. "Okay, but we start extra security." No questions asked. That afternoon, a security expert named Alvin Crosby arrived in a plain jacket and work boots. He didn't look like a bodyguard. He looked like a retired uncle. But Keanu trusted him, and that was enough. He set up motion sensors around the property, added cameras at every entrance, and reinforced the back door without changing the house's appearance. He was quick, quiet, and kind to Tyler, even teaching him how the alarms worked in case he ever felt scared. By nightfall, the house felt like a fortress. But fear is not always physical. Sometimes it lingers in corners, shadows, or the space between breaths. Tyler didn't say anything that evening, but Marie noticed he held onto the wooden coin Keanu had given him. His fingers rubbed the word "stay" again and again, like it meant something more now. Meanwhile, word about the Tyler initiative was spreading. From more Project Stay rooms had been approved. One in Kansas City, one in Phoenix, one in Chicago, and one in Atlanta. Donors were increasing. Families were calling in. Hospitals were asking if they could replicate the design. What had started as a single boy's letter was becoming a blueprint for healing. But then, another twist. Brenda Sato, the director of the foundation, received a package at her office in Los Angeles. It was addressed to her, but there was no postage. Inside was a burned copy of one of the project room floor plans, charred at the edges. Taped to it was a newspaper clipping about a shelter that had burned down 3 years ago. Brenda turned pale. She knew what it meant. 3 years ago, she had tried to launch a small community wellness center in San Diego, aimed at women and children recovering from abuse. It burned down 1 week before it opened. The fire was ruled inconclusive. The paperwork disappeared. The insurance claim was denied. Now someone was reminding her. Brenda called Keanu immediately. "It's not just you or Tyler," she said. "They're watching me too." "Who's they?" he asked. "I don't know yet, but it's coordinated. Someone with power. Someone who's scared we're building something that people can't control." Keanu went quiet. Then said, "We stay the course." Brenda agreed. And so they pushed forward, quietly, firmly, with more eyes watching and more hearts willing. But something shifted again. A fire broke out in a storage facility near Tyler's neighborhood, one that housed donated materials for the upcoming community build. Paints, lights, soft cushions, books, all gone. No injuries, but a total loss. The fire marshal said it looked like faulty wiring. Keanu didn't believe it. He flew in the next morning. He didn't speak to the press. He didn't take a hotel room. He stayed in the same house, on the same couch, drinking the same tea Marie always made with too much sugar. That night, after Tyler had gone to sleep, Keanu sat on the porch with Marie. The air smelled like smoke from the warehouse. "You don't have to stay involved," she said quietly. "You've done enough." Keanu stared into the distance. "I can't walk away now. Not when the work is just beginning. But what if something happens to you?" He smiled gently. "Then I hope someone else keeps building." Just then, the front door creaked open. Tyler wheeled himself onto the porch. In his lap was a small drawing. It was a picture of his house, the porch, Murray, Keanu, and himself, standing. Not in a wheelchair. Standing, with his arms raised toward the sky. He handed it to Keanu without saying a word. Keanu looked at it for a long time, then whispered, "We're going to build every room, no matter who tries to stop us." And deep inside, Marie knew something bigger was coming. Not just threats, not just fear, something that would test all of them. Because in 3 days, the city was hosting a town hall about the foundation, and someone on that list of speakers had a hidden agenda. Someone who knew how to destroy reputations with a single whisper. And someone who was going to use that stage, not to ask questions, but to bury the truth. The town hall ambushed town hall was scheduled for Saturday at noon in the city's largest public auditorium. It wasn't meant to be a media event, just a community gathering to discuss the rapid growth of the Tyler Initiative. On paper, it was routine, but everyone in the inner circle knew better. Keanu arrived early. He wore jeans, a black t-shirt, and a calm expression. No security detail, no assistant. Just a notebook in one hand and a printed drawing Tyler had made in the other, the one where he stood with arms raised toward the sky. Outside, a quiet protest had gathered. Nothing violent. Just a few signs. "Hollywood stays out. We don't need sympathy. This isn't your story to tell." Inside the auditorium, the seats were filling fast. Local officials, doctors, teachers, reporters, some curious, some skeptical, a few hostile. Marie sat in the front row with Tyler beside her, holding her hand tightly. He looked around nervously, but she leaned in and whispered, "You're not alone." Brenda Sato stood near the stage, holding a folder of financial documents, blueprints, and research summaries. Everything was clean, honest, and transparent. But she knew that wasn't going to be enough today, because someone had added a surprise speaker to the agenda. His name was David Hunt. A former politician turned community watchdog, smooth talker, sharp dresser. He had a reputation for charming audiences while slowly poisoning the people he opposed. And his name had appeared on the agenda just 12 hours earlier. No one knew who invited him. But Keanu wasn't surprised. He'd seen this move before. Twist the narrative. Question the intention. And slowly make people doubt what they know is good. At exactly noon, the moderator stepped up to the mic. "Welcome, everyone. We're here to discuss the Tyler Initiative, a growing foundation that's captured national attention. Today, we'll hear from its founder, its directors, and from members of our community." The first few speakers went smoothly. A nurse shared how her patients found peace in the new Project Stay room at the local clinic. A middle school principal talked about the sudden drop in anxiety-related absences after one of the rooms opened. Marie spoke next. Her voice trembled, but she held strong. "When my son lost his brother, he lost more than just family. He lost his voice. But a letter, and the man who read it, reminded him that people still listen. This isn't about fame, it's about healing." The crowd gave soft applause. Then David Hunt walked on stage. He didn't look angry. He smiled like he knew a secret. "I want to start by saying I admire compassion," he began. "We need more of it in the world. But we also need to ask the right questions. Who decides what healing looks like? Who profits from the attention? And who holds the power when Hollywood walks into our towns and builds in our names?" The room shifted. People leaned forward. Some nodded. Others frowned. Keanu didn't move. "Let's be honest," Hunt continued. "We've all seen celebrities start projects, promise the moon, then disappear when the cameras stop rolling. How do we know this isn't the same? How do we know this isn't another story built on pity and polished with fame?" He turned directly to Keanu. "Why now? Why this boy? And why should we trust you?" Silence filled the room. Keanu stood up slowly, walked to the mic. He looked at the crowd. then at Marie. Then at Tyler. Then he pulled the folded drawing from his pocket. Held it up. Because of this, he turned the paper so the room could see. A child who lost his voice drew this. No branding, no filters, just hope. He looked at Hunt. You ask why now? Because he needed someone now. Not next year. Not after a board meeting. Now. The room held its breath. You ask why this boy? Because he wrote a letter, and I read it. And once you read something like that, you don't get to walk away. He walked closer to the edge of the stage. You ask why you should trust me. You shouldn't. You should trust the children who are starting to smile again. The parents who have hope again. The rooms that breathe calm into chaos. He paused. This isn't my story. It never was. It's theirs. And then, for the first time since the fire took his brother, Tyler stood. His legs trembled, his balance weak. But he stood. Without help. Marie gasped. The crowd rose to their feet. And Tyler, eyes wide but steady, said one word into the mic. Stay. His voice was soft, but it shattered the room. The auditorium erupted in applause. Not because of Keanu, not because of a speech, but because a boy stood tall and reminded everyone why they were really there. David Hunt sat down. Silent. And in the hours that followed, everything changed. Donations doubled. Volunteers signed up in dozens. And the movement became impossible to ignore. But while the world celebrated, a black car sat parked 2 blocks away. Inside it, a man watched the live stream replay from a laptop. He didn't clap. He didn't cry. He closed the laptop slowly. And made a call. We're going to court. He said, we're suing the foundation. We'll freeze their accounts, block construction, crush the name before it grows too big. The voice on the other end asked, won't that look bad? The man replied, not if we say it's to protect the children. Because even when the truth stands tall, there are always those who whisper in the dark. And the final fight had just begun. The truth that wouldn't bend. Within 48 hours of the town hall, the Tyler Initiative received a formal notice, a lawsuit, filed by a group calling themselves Concerned Guardians for Public Transparency. The accusation, improper zoning permits, emotional exploitation of minors, and the boldest of all, weaponizing sympathy for personal gain. The document was thick, filled with legal jargon, footnotes, and demands to freeze all ongoing construction until a full investigation could be completed. Keanu sat quietly in Brenda Sato's office as she read the letter aloud. She paused, looked up, and whispered, this is war. Keanu nodded, yes, but not ours. What do you mean? We don't fight this in court. We fight it by staying visible, by staying kind, by not breaking. Brenda frowned. You think kindness will protect us? No, he said softly. But if we act like them, we become them. And if we stay honest, the truth stays stronger than any courtroom. Still, the impact was immediate. To Project Stay builds were paused. Donors grew nervous. Emails poured in. Some board members panicked and recommended pausing the initiative altogether. The media circled like sharks. Reporters wanted quotes. Cameras showed up outside Tyler's school. Opinion pieces questioned whether this whole story was too perfect to be real. Tyler stopped going outside. Marie started keeping the curtains closed. But Keanu, he stayed. He showed up every morning with tea and warm bread. He read stories in Tyler's room. He built puzzles with him, painted a wooden sign for the front yard with the words, we're not leaving. And then something changed. A letter arrived, but not from a supporter. From the lawyer leading the lawsuit. It was handwritten. Short. I watched your town hall. I saw the boy stand. I have a son with autism. I haven't spoken to him in 3 years. You reminded me what I lost. I'm stepping down. You have my apology. Brenda read the letter twice. Then laughed, then cried. And, just like that, the first brick in the wall of opposition fell. Days later, 3 more members of the Concerned Guardians group withdrew their names. The lawsuit still stood, but it was crumbling. And in its place, something new was forming. Keanu received a call from a state senator. I've been following this. I want to help. We're introducing legislation that will recognize Project Stay as a public mental health model, the first of its kind. Another call came from a school district in Colorado. We have buildings, We have staff. Can we host a room? The wave grew. But Keanu stayed grounded. Every day. He reminded the team, this is about one child at a time. And then came the final surprise. 1 year after Tyler first wrote his letter, the city of Los Angeles invited him to speak at a youth resilience summit. He was 12 now, his voice still soft, his steps still slow. But he walked on stage by himself. He held the wooden coin Keanu gave him. And he said only this, I thought no one could hear me. Then someone knocked on my door. He paused, and now we're building doors for others. The auditorium erupted. Not in noise. But in tears. Keanu stood in the back of the room. He didn't take the mic. He didn't wave. He just smiled. And when the lights dimmed, he walked out quietly. The next morning, a quiet press release announced the foundation's new name, the Stay Foundation. Not named after a person, but after an idea. Stay present, stay soft, stay strong, stay with those who are still finding their voice. And in a modest room on the 30th floor of a hotel, the same room where it all began, the staff discovered something unexpected during cleaning. Not a mess, not silence, but a note taped to the inside of the closet door, written in Keanu's handwriting. If someone ever knocks, let them in. They might be the reason you keep going. And that's how a letter from a quiet boy, a visit without cameras, a ramp, a coin, a porch, and one man who chose kindness over noise changed the world.